Welcome to Brief History Conspiracy.
This week, UFOs, the common flying saucer shape.
If you're new to our channel, please like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. It really does help us out. It kind of makes sense to me, though, that there might be different vehicles for different purposes. And we might even be talking about more than one species as well. There has been talked about that there's anything up to, 12 or more actual alien species that we're talking about.
Well, if you believe retired Sergeant Major Clifford Stone from the UFO Disclosure Project, he said in 1989 when he retired they'd catalogued 57 species of humanoid extraterrestrial. Yeah.
So there you go. So we might actually be seeing then, when we see different types of UFO, we might be seeing different types of technology and different types of purpose, literally different species.
Yeah.
Using different methods. So in that case, were the spacecraft Bob saw potentially then just one species or one variant of a technology that basically works the same way, but they do it in different ways, sort of thing.
Well, that's the problem, those with how compartmentalised the research is the fact that Bob only got to work on one of the craft of several that he knew. Was it 9 in total that Bob said that were
7, I think, but you might be right. I'm not sure. 7, possibly.
Okay. But he only actually physically worked on any materials, one of those, didn't he? So if they've compartmentalised it where nobody works on the crossing between the different craft and differences between how their propulsion systems operate, then nobody would have a handle on that apart from maybe one man at the top that's compartmentalising all of the research that truly understands everything. It's very hard to keep one. It's very easy, for one man to keep a secret.
Yeah, most definitely. I was just wondering whether this might be the thing of, like, with cars today. We'll have a car analogy. How we've got electric cars, but we've got, even from petrol engines, or we've got diesel, and then we've got V8 engines, and we've got Boxster engines, and we've got all these different things. So we've got different ways of doing the same thing, which is basically turning wheels and pushing around the road. But we use different methods or slightly variations of a theme depending on what we want to do. If you want to get somewhere fast, we have a big block V8. If you want to get somewhere very efficiently, you've got a very small engine with or an electric engine. Or I wonder if it might be a similar thing in that, depending on what the vehicle is purposed to do, the technology to do it is slightly different.
Yeah.
Yeah,
very well be. Yeah. I think the current understanding of physics is not quite correct, in that there's some kind of missing links between electromagnetism and gravitational systems. We're missing something still.
Yeah, possibly.
Perhaps that's what Ben Rich was referring to when he said we found an error in the equations.
Yeah, and that's what the thing we've got to figure out. One last thing I also want to talk about quickly, though, is the one thing Bob does talk about is how at least one of the vehicles he found, he felt had been here a long time, that it was ancient, right? And that it was actually found in an archeological dig. So he was talking about not just hundreds of years, possibly thousands of years or more. So somebody says to me on Facebook, goes, well, do you really think a UFO would fly all this way and be so advanced just to crash as soon as it got here? And I think that's an interesting point, though, because just because they're more advanced technologically than us, right, our even most advanced technology today still breaks sometimes. And I also think the forces of what you're talking about, sending a vehicle between stars, every so often something might go wrong, right? Just because something's advanced doesn't necessarily mean it would never break down.
No.
Yeah. But or break or crash or whatever.
Shit
but
happens.
Shit happens. But one of the things,
we've got a phrase for it that's quite commonly used.
One of the things that I do wonder is that there's a couple of reasons why I think we could find an intact spaceship. Basically, either they've come and not left for whatever reason. Maybe they were the people that were sent to mess with our DNA so that we would have the advance 50,000 years ago, where our brain completely changed and we become the dominant species on this planet. Maybe they were the guys that did it.
No, it's more like a quarter of a million years, isn't it? It's like the oldest human remains were just over 200,000 years ago, but I think they're starting to even get that further now, towards more like 300,000 years ago. We've had the same current brain volume and anatomical structure now for about 300,000 years.
No, they reckon that with about 50,000 years ago, there was an evolutionary kick that even though our brain is anatomically, like you say, correct, and it's the same, and the volume's the same, we have a thing that our left side and right side of our hemisphere, our brains, are connected. And that allows you to do far more better problem solving, using your imagination and things like this. And most primates don't have that ability. So they don't have advanced brain. But I reckon that happened about 50,000 years ago. And that's when we went from being a good humanoid to the dominant humanoid. And that is the big difference. So maybe our DNA was messed with. It's genuinely a mystery on how this happened. But that it did is massive.
Okay.
It's only been quite recently that it's been realised how big a difference it made. Suddenly, as well, that was the thing. It happened suddenly, which, from an evolutionary point of view, it's weird. And like I say, evolutionary scientists don't understand it at all.
The most intelligent hominid on the planet by the Anunnaki to mine the gold for them several 100,000 years ago, and we're now the product of
and they're coming back
for the last few 100,000 years.
They're coming back for it, people. I'm a big. I don't really a big believer in the Anunnaki thing, but I do like the story that they go that we're designed to dig the gold up. That's what we're basically. That's the main thing. They need it. We don't.
And we do have a fascination with gold on this planet.
We don't really need gold for a great deal.
We've used it to base all of the currencies against until recent years, where there is no gold backing anymore. But yeah, it was always the backing, wasn't it? Gold was the standard. And why this obsession with gold?
We wear it. And everything's like it's like we're digging it up and getting it ready, like putting it in the the bedside cabinet for when they turn up and go, give us the gold. Oh yeah, I know exactly where it is. So, there you go. It's in my watch.
It's also the ancient cultures, isn't it? You know, the Mayans, the Aztec, and all of these various ancient cultures from around the world, and how gold was important to all of them. There's not really one civilization that's existed where gold has not been highly important within that.
Most definitely.
Society, which makes you wonder as to whether there is to it or not, doesn't it? But anyway,
maybe. But going back to what these vehicles are, and why do we just find them down in the ground, sort of thing? Because I could understand that maybe they broke down. It's possible. I could even believe that occasionally they'd crash. You see how many UFO sightings there are constantly. Even if 1 in 100's true, UFOs are visiting us a lot. So occasionally the 1 in 100,000 crash, we'd get a crash every few years potentially. I could understand that maybe it was they're very interested in us, and some came here and stayed, and then they die over however long, but their vehicle stays buried somewhere, and then we come across them, maybe. Or one chap I spoke to on Facebook recently, he said he believes that they're the Atlanteans, and that we had an ancient human technology, and we're just seeing one that was basically parked, and obviously they then died off for whatever reason, and we find the technology years later. Well, that was one argument against saying that Atlantis, those theories weren't true, is saying, well, we would find the technology. Yeah. And he's basically saying is we are. Well, we do occasionally.
In Indian culture, in ancient Indian texts, they talk about the Vimanas, which were the chariots that the gods used to fly around in the skies.
Most definitely, yeah.
So in Indian people that know the ancient stories, it's not really news that their ancestors used to be the gods and used to fly around in the skies. It's just taken as given from their ancient stories. They've even got something called the Vimana Shakista, which is engineering drawings of how these craft are supposedly constructed that date back several thousand years.
Well, exactly. So then you're talking about that. All of a sudden, maybe an ancient people, maybe these UFOs are us. They're just more advanced. I always talk about there's Stargate the TV show, you know, and a lot of those. The guy that wrote Stargate was a huge conspiracy nut, because you see a lot of these conspiracy theories, they're all in this TV show.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
But one of the species they come across was a human species that basically hadn't had the Dark Ages, so they hadn't had the religious, the dogma that we had, and that we basically went for 500 years. Technology bad. It was also because of the environment and everything else as well. We had a really crappy 500 years where the life was hard, but we forgot everything. The Roman Empire had this amazing technology, and we basically for 1,000 years went, nah, we don't want internal pipes and things for waste management or heating. We don't want any of that. So we relapsed horribly. This one species, this one group of people, though, were took from the Earth. They didn't have that, so they were 500 years more technologically advanced than us. So they had, you know, really advanced technology and stuff. And I'm like, if there was like an Atlantis or something, whatever it was called, and these people didn't go through that, and they've been just steadily advancing.
They were aware of the Great Flood that was going to, or aware of the sinking of Atlantis that was going to occur after the Great Flood, and some of them escaped off planet.
Exactly, because if they had the technology like we think they do, they could have done. If they had anti-grav technology, they could have built an ark and just gone and left.
Which then that really concerns me when you think about the sheer number of underground military bases that have been built all over the world by various governments, particularly the American government, and that you think that technology is always kept secretive because it wins a war, and it's always kept secretive if you look through the course of history from the working class. It's always the elite classes that hold all of the power and the knowledge that generally So if we did have anti-gravity propulsion systems and were capable of off-planet travel already, would they tell us, or would they keep it for the elites?
For just in case they need to go again.
I think they do the latter, which is probably why we don't get any information being released about this kind of stuff. And they don't talk about.
That's depressing.
And they don't talk about the Younger Dryas climate period a lot, and the massive asteroid impact that's now pretty much almost been proven at the start of the Younger Dryas period about 12,800 years ago, and that we're actually in a very fragile position on this planet with another asteroid impact pretty much
we're overdue.
Now.
Yeah, we're overdue.
And then they've been building all of these underground military bases with like heightened urgency in recent years. Makes me wonder what they do now.
Great. Well, that's depressed me. It's a lovely Sunday morning. I was going to go have a nice Sunday dinner. Now I'm just thinking, oh, why bother? Let's just get in bed, put the duvet over my head. Just the last one with this, that when I'm thinking about why could these vehicles be there and why have we found them, is that there's the time travel theory, and that these are again us from the future coming back. Occasionally traveling through time is just as dangerous as traveling between the stars, and occasionally these things crash. Or interdimensional beings, same sort of theory, traveling between interdimensions. It always just interests me that, again, like I say, these vehicles, they can block our radar, and they do regularly. Favor was talking about that they were actively blocking his radar, but sometimes we see him on radar, like they want us to. They could be invisible, but we see them quite a lot. Sometimes we see them as balls of light, which they must not be able. It's almost like they're turning the full beams on, sort of thing, so we can see them. It seems to be on purpose. They could hide from us if they wanted to, and they don't. So that comes down to, like we said earlier, they either don't care, or they want us to see them.
Yeah, which probably the latter. They probably do want us to see them. That's what I think a lot of the crop circles are. If you look into a lot of the designs of a lot of the crop circles that appear, they show various mathematical constructs, various sequences, series. Some of them even claim to be drawings for free energy devices that the aliens are trying to show. So
maybe,
given all the crop circles that we can't explain, all right, yes, some of them are hoaxed. Again, UFO sightings we can't explain. Yes, a lot of them are misidentified phenomenon, hoaxes, but there are some in there, like we said before, like 5% of the UFO sightings that are truly metallic craft being tracked on radar, and they've had jets scrambled to follow them. They're doing incredible maneuvers, traveling incredible speeds.
But I was thinking about disclosure. I'm saying again, if these vehicles are what we think they might be, they are showing themselves, and our government seems to can't be bothered to pretend it's weather balloons anymore. We joked in our Bob Lazar video, didn't we, that when they released the Tic Tac video and that, yes, this is a genuine video. We have analysed it. We don't know what it is. In the background, there must have been a bunch of people with weather balloon bits going, we're not seeing it's a weather balloon now. What? Are we telling the truth? This makes no sense. But that is true. You know, we have seen a paradigm shift in the last 12 months within the US government, that they're now actually saying these vehicles are there. We don't know what they are. They might be off-world. Yeah. They might be built from somewhere else.
It almost flew under the radar with the world's current situation, pandemic with coronavirus. Yeah. It's almost like they wait for a good crisis and then slowly release the information they've been lying to you for several decades prior to it.
They really think that nobody was going to mention, nobody was going to not notice that the UFOs exist, and nobody was going to notice. But to be fair, that was even on national news. Nobody spoke about it. Only us conspiracy nutters on Facebook. That was on national news. It was on the telly. And nobody freaked out. Nobody ran around going, what the hell? Aliens are real? Everyone just went, oh, that's interesting. What about Corona?
Well, there's a massive distraction in the mainstream media for the last 4 months, isn't there, from the real news? You'd probably be surprised if you went and looked at what laws your government had actually passed in the last 4 month period. You'd probably be shocked at what new powers they'd given themselves.
Yeah, well, just all the stuff with the corona, some of the powers they've given themselves to stop us doing what we want is quite terrifying. But anyway, that's a different video.
But you feel free now, yeah? Yeah, you feel safer, sorry. For your loss of freedom, you feel safer, yeah?
Yeah, I feel pretty good. I'm all right. Till they put the RFID chip in my hand, and then I'll feel really safe.
Yeah.
I'm worried about this, man.
Never alone again.
I don't think I've got enough technology. I need technology inserted in me now to... It sounds pervy. Right. So that is the UFOs. That's how they work, why they're weird, why they don't... I still go back to that point of if Bob's right, why are they circular? There's no reason for them to be. They could be star-shaped. They could be the Borg and a big cube-shaped. It doesn't matter.
Perhaps that's what we thought we started to see, because if you think about the first sightings of the Aurora, the TR-3B vehicle, the three triangular-shaped craft, they supposedly got three propulsion systems on each of the 3 points of the triangle, and then the proper anti-gravity propulsion system in the center of the craft that removes something like, was it 88% of the gravitational forces of the Earth? It doesn't reduce nothing, but it reduces it, like the gravitational pull right down. So you know, maybe that the Aurora TR-3B is the reproduction of the anti-gravity propulsion system that Bob Lazar was working on reverse engineering. Perhaps
our first attempt at making it practical, so I think it's something we could use.
When we started seeing the sightings of the TR-3B, what was that? Probably early
90s, yeah.
Which is supposedly after 1989, the year that there was a big breakthrough that Bob wasn't involved in. Yeah.
I do think a lot of our early sightings of what we thought was triangular vehicles was probably the F-117 before it was released in mid-90s as the and then with this TR-3B and these sightings of this triangular vehicle, we know what we're looking at now. If we see a triangular vehicle, I think people just assume it's a stealth fighter. But then it was like, what the hell is that? When they saw they first saw the F-117, everyone thought it was a UFO, because how could that be a plane? When we see things with the TR-3B, I think there's possibly that same effect. One of the arguments to say that the gimbal or the Tic Tac video is actually just a man-made vehicle that we don't know about in a black op is the same argument, isn't it? The first time we saw the F-117, everyone said it had to be a UFO because we'd never seen anything like it. How can that be a plane? It doesn't look anything like... Planes can't fly like that.
Yep.
How do we not know, though, in 10 years' time, we're going to look back in the gimbal video and go, oh, yeah, it was the F-190. I've just pulled those numbers out the top of my head, by the way. Don't start Googling F-190. I don't know what it is. It probably is a thing, but I don't. It just jumped out of my head.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. You're right. We don't know exactly because it's so secretive, that technology by its very nature. Yeah,
it could just be next gen drone technology, and we just don't. And the pilots did get overexcited when they saw it because they'd never seen anything like it before, like they would have done if they'd have seen an F-117 in '91.
Oh God. American government with anti-grav drones.
Yeah, we don't need that.
We don't need that. We really don't need that.
Yeah, the American government anti-gravity technology drones stuff, and morally they don't give a shit about using.
Yeah, and they can pretty much just kill somebody or a lot of some kill a target and then just disappear out of the atmosphere into space
with absolutely no evidence. Yeah. Great, good. Well, that's a good place to end this. We've had a few really depressing moments in this video.
I know that was very interesting. Occurred to me. Yeah.